Our first event today here in the Commons will be a feature session on the technologies of future diagnosis for human infectious diseases. Professor Chun Jin-woo, the director of the Institute of Basic Science, Center for Nanomedicine, and the director of Yonsei's Advanced Science Institute and professor of chemistry, will be moderating this session. In this session, we will be hearing expert opinions on the future diagnostic technologies and directions for their applications. Professor Chun, the floor is yours.
All right, so thank you for joining us for this exciting and wonderful session. As I was introduced, I'm leading a Institute for Basic Science, Center for Nanomedicine at Yonsei University. Here we have a wonderful session leaders. I'll introduce later, but there will be 4 speakers, and each will represent their own work, and that will be about 30 minutes, and then we'll have a panel discussion, which will be about 10 to 15 minutes, and that'll make about 1 hour from now. So let me share my slides. Can I see my slide? The first. Oh, all right. So that's can I go to the next page? Next slide. Can I? So. Oh, okay. All right. So I didn't. All right. So I'm learning how to use this gadget. All right. So. As you can see that there is a first slide that's technologies for future diagnosis, and I'm Jin Chun. And so here we are joining for a session which is one of the main 17 goals, and number 3, that's the human health and well-being, and good health and well-being. And because I cannot really see the slide is too small. Maybe I'll just switch the position. Because I cannot, yes, I'm sorry for that. There are 17, now I can see that. There are 17 goals, and it covers from, no poverty, and quality education, gender issue, and so on. But number 3 is good health and well-being. So basically, we are going to discuss about that, because we went through COVID-19 for the past 3 years, and we had a really challenging time to each one of us. And then the healthcare and then new diagnostic technology have been very important, including many type of tools and equipments and and so on. So so we are dealing with this the sustainable development goals number 3. And before we move on to, let me just briefly mention about one of the Korean government's new initiative that's related for basic science, and there are new institute called IBS, and this has a ambitious goal of making Korean basic science into the global top 10 research institution, and the goal is to make the discoveries for the humanity and society. So it is very well in line with the UN SDG goal. And of course, we are at Yonsei University, and our center is called Center for Nanomedicine. And then basically it is a conversion of nanotechnology with medicine, and we are trying to strive to be a world-class research hub. And as you all know that the Yonsei University was founded as a medical school, and medical school is one of the leading healthcare institutions, not only in Korea but across the Far East. And we are now moving to the back, and here we have a wonderful panelists and speakers, and Professor Cesar Castro from Harvard Medical School, Massachusetts General Hospital, and Dr. Jae-hyuk Choi from CGen, and Professor Jae-hyun Lee, Advanced Science Institute and IBS, and Professor Jun-sub Yum at Severance Hospital and School of Medicine at Yonsei University. So I'll just stop with this introduction, and there will be 3 speakers. The first speaker is Professor Jae-hyun Lee, and he is currently a assistant professor at Yonsei University, and he is one of the leading scientists in nanoscience and nanomedicine, and he's interested in particular into the development of new technologies for molecular diagnostics. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Professor Lee, and maybe we can change the seat and he can continue.
Thank you for the nice introduction. Okay, can you change the PowerPoint slide? Okay, so today I will talk about our recent technology named as nano PCR. So we believe it is a high fidelity PCR diagnosis tools for infectious diseases. So I will start. There are some lessons learned from the previous and ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and then the important lesson is the diagnostic capacity at early stage is a key to epidemic control. So as you can see in this the chart, this chart is from the April 2020, so that the early stages of the COVID-19, and then the important thing is that the country with the early diagnosis at scale has much less mortal rate. So that is very important. So the early and timely diagnosis is very important. So in terms of containment, so that it can slow down the spread and it can prevent the outbreaks, and also it enables the treatment, prompt and effective treatment, and reducing the severity of the diseases, and it can also provide important information to the public health authorities, and it also enables the resource allocation for the effective allocation of the medical supplies and personnel. So early diagnosis is pretty important, and now we are time to think about the new upcoming diseases. We are named as Disease X. So actually, the Disease X is as yet unknown infectious disease that has potential to cause global pandemic. It is defined at 2018 by WHO. And then the important thing for our diagnostic capability is that with the tool, that should be really fast. The speed is important. It can provide quick and accurate result, and also the accessibility is important. So it enables the testings available at resource-limited locations, and affordability, of course, and the cost should be low, and then scalability, so we can produce in a large quantity, and also the sensitivity and specificity is important, and also the flexibility and integration with the existing system, so that we can allow the prompt and effective sharing of the data and information to the government and authorities. So Yeah, so the conventional diagnostic tools there are very two famous gold standard tools. One is the RT-PCR, and the second one is the antigen antibody, the point of care diagnostics. As you all know that the RT-PCR is a gold standard. It is very accurate and sensitive. It has a sensitivity down to 3.2 DNA copies per microliter, very little of volume, but the one caveat is that it is time consuming. So let's say it takes like 4 hours for sampling and diagnostic processes, and the current the instrumentation for PCR is large and is not very portable. So, but antigen antibody point of care diagnostics is very fast, but it has a low sensitivity and low accuracies. So RT-PCR is a reliable COVID-19 diagnostic tools, as you can see this chart. And then, the pre-infectious stages. So that pre-infectious stages, the virus is still inside our body, and then that can be only detected by the PCR or the NGS, next generation gene sequencing kind of technologies. So so we have to develop the RT-PCR technology available at point of care testing devices. So this is what we have recently developed, named as a nano-PCR. So nano-PCR is the rapid PCR technology for infectious diseases. So as you can see this picture, this nano-PCR technology is utilizing the light for thermocycling processes. So you know that for PCR, you need to have some thermocycling from 60 degrees C to the 90 degrees C, and that can be repeated many times. So this nano-PCR system we developed is a one-part RT-PCR system. You don't need any more like the pipetting or like instrument. It is a one-part RT-PCR system, and then it seamless integration of plasmonic thermocycling with fluorescence signal detection as single devices, and also it that is enabled by the nanotechnology of the dual functioning magnetoplasmonic nanoparticles, and it can execute the reverse transcription, rapid PCR and fluorescence detection with a single button press. And then we made a prototype of this nano PCR, and it can measure the multiple sample in 17 minutes, and the limit of detection is the same as to the conventional RT-PCR instruments. And then also we tested the clinical samples and achieved a very good diagnostic accuracies. So this is the kind of movie that using the nano PCR prototype machine. So you put the samples in there, and then you just cover the thing, and then you press the button, and then it starts the plasmonic PCR cycle. The plasmonic means like a laser light shining onto the sample, and then there are magnetoplasmonic nanoparticles in there, and then that can elevate the temperature really fast. So in the conventional PCR technology, do the thermal cycle, let's say 40 cycles, that can do like 2 hours, and that takes such a time. But this nano PCR technology can reduce that PCR time almost down to the 10 minutes. So within the 14 minutes, the reverse transcription and PCR can be done, and after that, the magnetic nanoparticles in there can be separated completely within 3 minutes. So like in total, like 15 minutes, 17 minute time stage, we can actually detect the PCR products. This is the demonstration. And then the important nanotechnology inside this nano PCR is the nanoparticle technology, named as the magnetoplasmonic nanoparticle, MPN. So it has core and shell-like structure. The core is the magnetic, and the shell is the gold nanoparticle. So when you shine the light onto this the nanoparticle, it increases the temperature really fast. So, so that it shows like some principles of the plasmonic heating, so that nanoparticle inside the solution does the volumetric heating. So it's not the convectional heating demonstrated by the Peltier heating process. So that this kind of volumetric heating makes the heating process really fast and then really homogeneous. So from 60 degrees C to 90 degrees C, that one cycle can be done within like 9 seconds, and compared to the conventional Peltier type, the thermocycler, which takes like 2 to 3 minutes for one cycle. So yeah, so that's the thing. And then we, of course, tested clinical samples, and then we checked the sensitivity, and then the accuracy, and then it is the very comparable to the conventional PCR technology. So that we and then we also can make the instrumentation size really small and portable. So this technology is actually showcased in the United Nations website, and then title says university research team develops high-speed nano-PCR technology to diagnose COVID-19, and then it is kind of exemplified that one of the examples of the SDG goals, to meet the SDG goals by the university. And then we are kind of expanding this nano-PCR technology to the next stage, and it is showing that it is the same for the it is same that we are using the magnetoplasmonic nanoparticles, and then we kind of make a little more sophisticated machine, and then that is the second version of the nano-PCR, and that it implements the sampling from the saliva, the oral fluid, and then the liquid handling is all automatic, so you don't need to pipette, and things like that. And then we are aiming to target multiple target at the same time. So in this case, it's a SARS-CoV-2 virus and then H1N1 viruses together. So so now we are making this kind of system in collaboration with our Yonsei Medical Center. So I think this is the last slide. We believe that nanotechnology in clinical diagnostics is really important. So it can improve the sensitivity, the high surface to volume ratio for detecting and capturing small amounts of the pathogens, and also it can increase the specificity. So we keep that because we can engineer the nanomaterials to reduce chance of false positives and negatives, and then we can also do rapid testing is possible, and then we can make the whole system really small so that we can enable the point of care test. And then, of course, it can eliminate the need for expensive lab equipments and trained personnel. So they can. We are saying that it is cost effective, and then we are also think that nanotechnology can do the various multiplex diagnosis. Okay, so thank you very much. And then we are currently I'm now working with Professor Jinwoo Chun and Professor Hako Lee at the Harvard Medical Center, and Professor Jun-Sup Yum at the Severance Hospital. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lee. I think we all enjoyed your talk very much. And due to the time limit, let's move on to the next speaker. Next speaker is Dr. Junhyuk Choi, right? Is it Castro? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So next speaker is Cesar Castro. Hi, Cesar, how are you?
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, what time is it over there?
7:49 p.m.
All right, it's not too late. So we are expecting your beautiful talk. You came to Yonsei a couple of years ago to give a talk and meet with our scientists, and it is our great pleasure to have you again. And let me just briefly introduce, because we have only 15 minutes, and to the audience, Dr. Castro, Cesar, he went UC Berkeley, his BA, and he got his medical doctor degree at UCSF. And then he has been at Harvard Medical School and Massachusetts General Hospital since 2001, and he is one of the leaders in point-of-care diagnostics and translational oncology and nanotechnology. So with that, let me start my introduction of you, and then can you start with your presentation?
I will. Let me press play. Okay, is that visible?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. So thanks so much for the introduction. I wanted to talk to you today about achieving equitable cancer diagnostics through miniaturized and point-of-care platforms. And I recognize this is in the infectious disease section of the forum, and so I will focus my attention on our efforts for human papillomavirus detection for cervical cancer screening. And so this is indeed a world of the haves and the have-nots. And this is very apparent in this picture here of an area in San Diego, California, on the right, that borders the country of Mexico. And so we see these disparities as well in healthcare. And so in the upper left here is there's a pharmacy near my house, just about a 12-minute walk in Cambridge. If I were to develop a fever and a cough and chills, I would just walk the 12 minutes and I would be quickly seen and get an x-ray and then treated with antibiotics if appropriate. If I was a resident of Botswana, Africa, and this is a picture of one of our investigators when we conducted work in Botswana, who he took, I would have to walk miles to then find this metal bin that says cough spot and produce my sputum there. And you can imagine the challenges of the triage, waiting days, if at all, to get a response, if they could even find me. And so to address some of these challenges, my laboratory and my collaborators at the Center for Systems Biology have been advancing and developing nano and microsensors over the years. The main intent is really to conduct these deep dive analyses at the cell, protein, DNA, and or RNA level. And we take advantage of these next generation biospecimens. So they include fine needle aspirates, so just a one or two passes, brushings, so cervical brushings, for example, and also liquid biopsies. Our forte is mainly urine and peripheral blood. And all of these efforts would be meaningless if we aren't able to achieve accurate profiling, really, of the relevant biomarkers. And so the previous session certainly resonated with me as well. I mean, there are times where high-tech and low-tech approaches achieve the same result, right? And so there are benefits to the high-tech approaches. You could scale, you could identify new science, new biology. Cost is a little less prohibitive, but because of the challenges that Professor Lee had mentioned with respect to skilled operators and infrastructure, you tend to have these in more centralized locations. So those are academic hospitals, universities, and not so much the more near patient situations. Whereas the benefits of low technologies, we can ask very targeted, focused questions. What's the clinical situation? And let's just focus our technology towards it. And because you don't need the skilled operators, the workflows are easier, more kind of automated in many ways. You can achieve this in local clinic, in a mobile van, near patient, or even at the end user's place of residence. And so that you can imagine, and you can see how this is very decentralized. And so to achieve and deal with these disparities, Over the years, we've also had been focusing our attention on various sensing modalities from magnetism, fluorescence, SPR, electrochemistry. I want to focus really our efforts on holography. And why the human papillomavirus? Well, it's central to the development of cervical cancer. And fortunately, in developed countries at least, the pap smear has done a great job in decreasing the deaths from cervical cancer by up to 75% in the United States and other developed countries. The sad reality is that in 2023, it still remains the third leading cause of death in women from low and middle income countries. There are various reasons: lack of pap smears, low participation, just transportation, other infrastructure challenges. But it's not just a low and middle income country problem, it's a global problem. Because even in certain areas in the United States, for example, the mortality rates of Black American women are similar to those mortality rates of poor developing nations. So we really need improved diagnostics. The pap smear actually does a good job in reducing mortality, despite the fact that it has very inferior sensitivity compared to an HPV PCR test. The specificity is slightly better, and that's what allows it to be effective, because cervical cancer progresses fairly slowly. And so the every 3 year or so pap smear still allows us to catch up and identify it. But that being said, the United States, other developed countries have recognized the value of HPV. And so in many places throughout the world, HPV is actually preferred over pap smear. And this could be a wonderful opportunity because particularly in challenging situations, low resourced areas, you may only have one time to see that patient, not every 3 years. So if you can identify high-risk HPV and treat at that point of care, you can reduce the mortality. And so to achieve our HPV analyses, we employed principles of holography. So briefly, when light gets scattered, okay, after it's shown on a particle, the extent of that diffraction is really a function of the particle size, composition, what's on the surface. And the native image is similar to, particularly if you zoom out, to a TV screen that has no antenna. And so a few years ago, we envisioned a strategy where, what if we collected some clinical samples and we labeled those samples with beads that themselves are functionalized with antibodies, and we inject those samples into a module that we developed to just attach to the camera of a mobile phone, and then generate the holographic image. We had already developed algorithms to reconstruct that image back to the object image. The challenge was that mobile phones weren't sophisticated enough at that time. So we circumvented, if you will, by taking advantage of cloud computing. So the phone was a passive participant. It just generated the image, sent it through cellular data. The powerful cloud computing then reconstructed, send it back to the phone, and you get your end user image. And so just very, very briefly, what did that reconstruction that itself occurs in less than 1 minute, if I direct your attention to the far left, that column is the gold standard. That's bright field microscopy. And so if we were interested to see whether a cell had a particular marker, say EpCAM, we would incubate the cells with EpCAM functionalized beads. And if indeed there was that target on the surface, you would have target engagement like in the bottom left. If there was no relationship, then it's just sporadic, and as in the upper right. The reconstruction created two images, the two readouts, amplitude and phase. Amplitude essentially was able to depict all the cells and the beads, whereas the phase contrast was able to depict the cells. When you merge them, you see in the far right that the images are very similar to the gold standard. And so we were encouraged, we were able to use preclinical model cell lines, and we moved on to cervical cancer screening. And in a clinical study at the Mass General, women that had already had a pap smear was concerning, that they needed to go for biopsy. We got one extra biopsy, the rest were sent to pathology, and we analyzed it with our technology. And what we found is that there was a correlation with the number of bead binding around the tissue with high risk pre-invasive disease, and then less binding with low risk, and then sporadic, no relationship with benign disease. So that was encouraging. But again, as wearing my clinician hat, if you wanted to use this for cervical screening of all comers, not just an abnormal pap smear, we can't be doing biopsies. So we needed to innovate on a few levels. A, the specimen, two, the reagents, and I'll explain how. And then also we were running into some proprietary issues. We needed a little more control of the hardware, and it was very difficult when we were wedded to particular technology. So we needed to innovate and create our own hardware that was modular, and we can then have full control of the various different parameters. And this is the sobering reality that you won't learn until you're really in the field. When we were in Africa and some of the pilot testing, even if your phone said you had cellular signal, practically you weren't able to transmit data reliably. And that was an important part of this application. So we needed to innovate on that level. And so what we did was, rather than biopsies, we relied on cervical brushings. And rather than one bead, we used two different beads, polystyrene and silica, each with their own holographic signatures. And on each bead, we have primers that flanked both ends of the target DNA. So for example, if we were interested in HPV-16 DNA and it was present in the sample, then it would have the beads kind of joining there and create dimers. And so the holographic image really can't tell what's a free-floating polystyrene, silica, or dimer. But what we did is we trained, through deep learning analysis, we trained the machine to essentially learn what's a polystyrene signature, silica, dimers, artifact, and we did that with 13,000 images plus. And at the end of the day, in D, at the bottom right, you see one representative example of a dimer. And this is just an example of the hardware that we kind of created. It may not be as elegant, but we were able to have control of the various parameters. And so we then did a clinical study at an MGH of women who had a pap smear and also HPV testing. So the gold standard at Mass General and many places throughout the world includes the Roche-Cobas test, PCR test. And so a positive Cobas test for HPV-16 or HPV-18 in this data here is red. Negative is gray. The y-axis is just the strength of our holographic signal. So you see here that all the positive Cobas results, whether it's HPV-16 in A or HPV-18 in B, was correlated with elevated holographic signature, whereas a negative test correlated with a low holographic signature. And so we're advancing that and try to scale that in clinical studies. And so this is just for you to get a sense of how we were evolving as well in creating our own technologies. And it's going to essentially need to align what the application is. And so to better use the appropriate technology. And so these are examples of when we were teaching see one, do one, teach one, our local stakeholders, and then we're able then to teach others and move this from the laboratory to clinical, at least studies. And that's really where the strength of involving our local stakeholders. This is my final slide. I think, and these are some of the points that were also alluded to in the previous talk. Some of the key ingredients, and IBS does this fantastically as well, is having multidisciplinary teams. Even the end user, just having everyone's input, because everyone brings something unique to the table. You want to validate your work on other populations as well if you really want this to have global impact. And it's about collaborating. Maybe I'm interested in one particular facet, but if other individuals are interested in other parameters, I think what's really going to move the needle is multi-parametric analyses. And then my final point, reverse engineering, gives you the most impact. So what does that mean? It's not about developing a technology and then looking for a problem. Okay, where can I apply this? It's about what's the problem, and then bring in the people, bring all the stakeholders, and create that solution with all the individuals you have around you. So this takes a village, and so I want to thank my key collaborators, Professor Ralph Weisletter, Professor Haku Lee, and Professor Hyung-Sung Im. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. It was such a great talk. And let's move on to the next speaker, Dr. Junhyuk Choi. Let me just briefly introduce him. He is currently a diagnostic platform business strategic product planning and solution business development director. And he is an alum of Yonsei University, engineering. And then he, after he got a bachelor's and a master's at Yonsei, and then he went to MIT and he got a doctoral degree at nanomechanics and biomaterials. And he went through many other positions, and currently he is, as I just mentioned to you, that he's leading the platform development at CGEN. So can you start your talk? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's my great pleasure to be here. I'm Jae-hyuk Choi, Director of Platform Business Group in CGEN. So today I want to introduce CGEN's challenge for sustainable development by sharing CGEN's PCR technology to overcome the risk of life-threatening infections and future pandemics. First of all, I want to talk about CGEN's on-time response against COVID-19. CGEN has delivered the most accurate assays on time against any emerging COVID-19, its variants, and respiratory pathogens. At the beginning of outbreak, we developed world's first 3-target detection assay for SARS-CoV-2 on February 2020. After 2 months, we developed another world's first 4-target detection assay for SARS-CoV-2. So you just remember that Professor Lee talked about the emerging of a pandemic on April 2020, but CGEN already had the world's first 3-target detection assay of SARS-CoV-2 on February 2020. Variance detection, we did very quick development to detect any high-risk emerging mutation covering US, South Africa, Brazil variants, even India, all the variants all over the world. We had variant kits on time. And we developed a very accurate detection kit for Delta, Delta plus Omicron, and Delta Omicron variants during Delta Omicron dominant period. And also even more, we developed a short-time detection PCR for high throughput and fast confirmation. It means fast PCR within 1 hour, but without any compromise of sensitivity and specificity. Currently, we have 2 syndromic detection kits. Syndromic means multiple targets, even 14 multiple targets together, which has similar symptom. So doctor needs some clear idea which is the right infection, then they can do proper treatment. So we have those kits, 2 kits now. One is a basic one to distinguish among SARS-CoV-2, influenza A, B, and RSV. And we have master kit. It has basic plus 4 more targets like a parainfluenza, adenovirus, rhinovirus, metapneumoviruses. So the main key virus infections we can cover all. I want to emphasize one more thing, this kit. This assay identifies all positive COVID-19 cases and distinguishes among alpha, beta, gamma, delta, omicron, and its test version by using 4 major target genes. And I really want to emphasize one more thing. This assay was developed within a week. Many people are talking about, even Dr. Lee and Dr. Coster talking about specificity, sensitivity, accuracy is important, early diagnosis is important, and decentralization is important. There is one more thing, very important thing. You need to develop right on time. So not within a month. Normally PCR assay, you need 2 or 3 months at least, but CGEN has some automated development system you can develop within a week by using the automated system. I'm going to talk about that later in detail. So what changed through the COVID pandemic? So the public came to know MDX, molecular diagnostic, there are some many advantages well since the COVID pandemic. So before COVID, it was applied only to selected patients and unknown to the public. But now, during COVID, the public came to know it can do oligonucleosis. Dr. Lee already explained about that. I want to just to emphasize one more thing. Even detecting asymptomatic patients, which means actually someone who doesn't have a pain but infected, so initiation of the infection, so we can detect in proper isolation and prevention, so to prevent the further infection from these people. And then we can do high throughput. High throughput is really important. Even if you have very high technology, if you cannot do high throughput, it means nothing. Because during pandemic, everyone is infected. You need to do detection right away. And the syndromic, I explained just before, and quantitative. CD values can quantify the severity, so you can do the right proper treatment. After COVID, now, what's the future of MDX? So MDX, we expect it can be an in-life test. It means to average in everybody in the future, we can do the PCR. And it means actually, like as Dr. Castro shows, we can do the screening for HPV, like some acute disease and then chronic disease, all things we can cover all. But there's some obstacles in instruments and assays. I'm going to talk about that. And CGEN, we believe we have some solution for that called one system. So we have an opportunity to change the world. The obstacle is multiple systems in current MDX laboratory. 16 systems are required to cover all major fields of 77 assays for human. So it delays the test result, and then only big size lab can do this because it needs a lot of space and also it needs a lot of money to install them. So CGEN is suggesting one system in future MDX laboratory, one system for all assays, but not just all assays, all syndromic assays to cover all similar kinds of symptoms, but having some, as I explained to you, at least 8 or 9, 14 different targets we need to take a look at it. So this is the first challenge in the world to make one system for all syndromic assays, and then it can give the same day result and it's suitable for all labs, not just for the main lab, big lab, small lab, decentralized lab, clinic, even at home. So CGEN did the first step to make this happen. So we have an all-in-one system called iOS that can perform all 34 different kinds of main syndromic assays of CGEN we can provide. This is the main thing that I'm showing here. And then in the future, near future, we're going to have a smaller system. We're going to have a more high throughput system and a smaller point of care system. We're going to have them. I hope maybe we can have a good collaboration, Dr. Lee and Dr. Castro, the Yonsei University, the key professors. We can work together for the smaller system, I think. This is an example of one system. All infectious disease, GI, RP, STI, blood, personalized medicine for cancer, SMP, drug resistance genetics can be in one system, so a broad range of syndromic menus can be applied in one system. Not just for human. In the future, all fields of assays can be in one system. Human, plant, non-human area, fish, food, research feed, animal agriculture, everything can be in one system. Just a different model line, maybe model line, so showing this is for human, this is for non-human, but in one system. So CGEN, we believe we have a very good solution for this. So we have, due to 22 years of focused efforts on PCR technology, CGEN could establish a total MDX solution for one system. We have 5 technologies, main technologies: syndromic assay technology, instrument technology, and automated assay development technology. And CGEN standardized raw materials for the syndromic assays, enzyme, oligonucleotides, extraction, all of them, we have all to provide. I think if you are working in this area, enzyme is really critical, oligonucleotide is really critical. I think you know sample prep is really important. And the automated manufacturing technology we have it to provide. So due to all this effort, during the COVID pandemic, CGEN could supply 335 million tests to about 100 countries. So we believe it's a time to share our solution with all partners over the world to control and prevent the risk of life-threatening infections and future pandemics. So I want to explain more about the CGEN's top-notch syndromic PCR technology. We have 5 proprietary technology groups for syndrome PCR testing. Since 2006, we got the patent and developed DPO technology for multiplex amplification, TOS for multiplex detection, MUDT for multiplex quantification, SG in silico, SG IDO technology for automated oligo design and performance test, and even DSP technology for accurate interpretation. I want to explain just one more thing because you guys are all working in the science area. So we have some 3' primer, 5' primers. Normally it has just one region. CGEN's technology has 2 regions for each primer and then connected with spring. That's the reason we can have a higher specificity, still have a good sensitivity. And compared to the conventional, so unique set of technologies enables syndromic assay. This is a specialty of CGEN. It's world best. And the first, most innovative technology only CGEN can provide. And we have, compared to conventional TaqMan technology, CGEN's technology have a big advantage, as you can see here. At least 4 times more targets you can have it in one tube. So compared to the TaqMan respiratory assays, for example, for 9 targets, you need 3 tubes with IC in each tube, internal control. But CGEN's respiratory assay, as I explained before, RV master, for example, 9 targets plus internal control in one tube. It's big advantage. Just before Dr. Castro talked about human papillomavirus, I'm very happy to hear about that. I was in Amazon, I was in Africa so many times to help them and by using PCR technology, and then always they need a human papillomavirus assay. I really understand and then really hope we can have that, and CGEN has that. Compared to TaqMan HPV assay, it needs 5 tubes for major 14 high-risk pathogens for human papillomaviruses. CGEN's HPV assay, we have it in one tube. All 14 targets, high-risk pathogen, WHO is recommending to do the screening. We have them all in one tube with internal control. So compared to the TaqMan, it needs 1 patent. We have 19 patents, complicated, but we combined all together and to make it happen. Think about that. You have oligomers, enzymes, over 100 oligomers enzymes in one tube. How can you handle them? It's very hard. It's very hard. So that's the reason CGEN has very fine-tuned manual assay development process from idea, all the steps to 16 steps to make a product. It requires product development, knowledge, experience, know-how, and skilled technician for experiment. It's not just for the innovation. You need to do the proper manufacturing and proper some sales also even. So now we have one more advancement. Now CGEN has automated assay development by the help of AI-based SDDDS. So SDDDS means CGEN digitalized development system. Without knowledge, experience, know-how, and skilled technician for product development, no more complicated processes, you can develop this complicated assay, syndromic assay. So our idea is CGEN's automated assay development system enables global partners, our partners, future partners, to develop customized assays with local experts. So local experts means professionals in specific fields who can involve in developing customized assays. They have some ideas, by using our automated development system, they can make a customized assays. So I want to also show one movie, Automated Manufacturing Facility of CGEN.
There are a total of 6 automated manufacturing sites in Hanoi. The facilities have 3 key features. First, flexibility. CGEN's over 100 different assays can be produced using an optimized combination of manufacturing equipment and processes. Second, immaculate quality control. A seamless and automated manufacturing process minimizes the possibility of human error and contamination, enabling high-quality production. Third, mass production. The facilities boast a manufacturing capacity of 20 million diagnostic products per month. They are highly scalable, and we can expand the production line to meet growing demands. This is just the beginning of CGEN's greater vision. We plan to establish localized production systems by expanding our automated manufacturing facilities all over the world. Once our global product development combines with manufacturing automation, CGEN will become a true global bio-platform company that'll be able to develop and supply products when and where they are needed. CGEN is committed to improving the health and well-being of all people using molecular diagnostics.
See ahead. Change tomorrow.
So think about that. If you have all these things together and then provide the very low price, high throughput manner, some assays to the low and middle income countries, that'll be beautiful. So CGN's platform business, we are ready to propose CGN's platform business with future global partners, even low and middle income country partners. So shortly, we're going to prepare one system packages to enable the development of syndromic assays in global partners. It means we're going to provide all the technology and know-hows for CGN syndromic assays from development, clinical trial, approval, manufacturing, and sales. And then it's going to be one system packages and then shared with all the global partners, future partners. Then it's going to be the future partners will develop all fields of syndromic assays, not just for the pandemic, all fields of syndromic assays by using CGN's one system packages. So collaboration concept is like this. So all countries over the world, one partner in one country. So this partner, we're going to internalize the world's best PCR technologies and then can do development with local partners, as I explained. And then eventually, the most important thing is they can prevent the next pandemic in each country. The global one system, we have some policy. Transfer of one system packages to global partner, regardless of income levels of countries and populations of countries. It means no discrimination. We're going to provide that if they are ready. And we're going to apply one system to all fields of assays, including both human and non-human area, as I explained. So, if we work together, what is going to be future? This is my last presentation page. So let's see together by 30 minutes.
CGene envisions a solution to turn worries into relief. A possibility to turn fear into hope. And a way to keep all living things safe. CGene envisions a brighter tomorrow with molecular diagnostics. See ahead. Change tomorrow.
Thank you very much. We hope to see how it together and then change tomorrow together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jae Choi. And now I think we have time for panel discussion. And we heard about great science from developing new tools and new concepts, and also new visions from the industry and so on. But let me just introduce Professor Yom Jun-sup at Severance Hospital, and he is in charge of one of the leaders in infectious disease. And as a leader, and also you are dealing with a lot of patients with the disease on the field. And what would you comments on these developments and the future challenges as a medical doctor and also leader in the field?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for very kind introductions and wonderful presentations from all the speakers. And I think the Dr. Choi's presenting slides already summarized the impact of this molecular diagnostics impact before COVID-19 and during or after the COVID-19. And we are now all knows that the molecular diagnostics has impact greatly in response to the infectious disease or maybe future infectious diseases. And all of these our speakers presented today that these molecular diagnostic technologies are going forward for this smaller, handheld, portable system with the less experienced technicians performing the diagnostic test. And today we all talked about the diagnosis of infectious disease or newer infectious disease that we don't know yet, but actually this molecular technology will be or currently applied to the not just of the diagnosis of infectious disease, but also for the genomic epidemiology. So all of this molecular technology will be applied to the various areas of infectious disease responses. So make it faster response, and that will eventually make us stop the pandemics faster. So these technologies talk today will be very important in response, and also not just for the diagnosis, but for the surveillance, tracking the system, and eventually those results will be leads to the faster development of therapeutics and even vaccines. So I think not just the technology that we talk today, but I know, as far as I know, there are other newer technologies in molecular diagnostic area are already developed and trying to implement it in the fields of infectious disease surveillance and diagnosis or treatment. So I think this newer technology will have a great impact, and hopefully this technology will make us deal with the newer infectious disease faster to stop pandemics and making patients diagnosed faster and hopefully treat all the patients in the better ways to reduce the mortality. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yum. And maybe I could also ask Caesar, what would be the future challenges for as a scientist and also technology developed from an industry to deal with disease, X, and what would you say?
Implemented is that there's an initial enthusiasm, and what happens is then the challenge is sustaining that. And so it could be as simple as there's an immunohistochemistry, platform, but now we don't have the reagents, or they can't afford the reagents. Initially, it was provided at cheaper, but then that relationship kind of wasn't sustained. So it's going to be important that we make sure that we engage our local kind of investigators, but then find a way to make sure that those technologies don't get outdated, and then the next best thing comes in, right? And so it's just making sure we're consistent. And the last thing I'd like to say is that when I see a lot of value, and this was this panel presentation on the interactions with academia and industry, because academia can only take you so far, but when you have other lanes and opportunities to scale and have a vision, as we just heard, more globally, I think that's where that beautiful synergy arises from.
All right, so thank you so much, and we have about 1 minute to go, and any one of you to comment more about our current challenges and future directions of the field?
I want to talk about one thing. I am alumni of Yonsei University, and it was built by Underwood, who was actually he came here when we were very low, I want to say underdeveloped country at the time, right? And they did a great job, great impact in Korea. So myself, when I was in Yonsei University, I already thought about what I'm going to be in the future. And then I think that the reason I'm in CGen now, I really have a goodwill to share the technology of CGen to the low and middle income countries all over the world. It's same as the SDG goal. So I really hope the technologies or the effort, actually I came to know innovation is not the main thing actually. Innovation is the first one we should accomplish, but to make it happen, to be available for all the low and middle income countries, it needs good manufacturing, it needs a high throughput manners, production, then right registration, regulatory registration. All these things should be combined together. It's got to be fine art, to share our all good things to the low and middle income countries. So I hope we need to have a goodwill for this together and then make it happen together. So I strongly hope this is a good first step to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So I think it's now time to close the session, and I think we all enjoyed the session very much. And this is our hope for the future, to deal with any potential challenges in terms of disease and also other obstacles that's gonna come in the future. But we want to continue, hopefully in the future, to have this kind of a session. And I'd like to thank all of the panelists, speakers, and audiences. I think we had a great time, and hopefully we get together next time. And I really thank the GEEF 2023. I think it's a great venue for us to get together. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Chan, for the session. It was a great session. It actually reminded me of an advertisement quote back when COVID first started. I don't remember the company. I think it was, I don't know. It was the quote was, "Science will win." And I think based on our discussions today and the visions that we discussed in this forum, with the help of industry and academia and practitioners, we definitely can start fighting diseases in a much more efficient way. Thank you very much for the great session. Another round of applause, please. Okay, so that was the first session of the day, and we will take a 15-minute break, and we will be back with our second session, where we will discuss about end-to-end strategies to enable innovation and technology for the social impact and SDGs. Thank you very much. I'll see you in 15 minutes.